So in this video, I want to go over the product rule. And what the product rule states is that if you have two functions, f of x and g of x, being multiplied by together, you find the derivative in the following way. So you take the derivative of the first function, f of x, times the original function, or times the second function unchanged, plus the first function unchanged, times the derivative of the second function. And that's all there is to it. We'll go over a few examples. So for the first one, we're going to have f of x is equal to x squared times sine of x. So this will be our first function, f of x, and then this will be our second function, g of x. So if we look up here, we take the derivative of the first, and by the power rule, it says that we bring down the constant, or the exponent, to the front, and then we subtract one. So this will be 2x times the second function unchanged, so times sine of x, plus the first function unchanged, so x squared, times the derivative of the second. So the derivative of sine is cosine x. And that is the answer to this one. Let's try another one. Let's do, we'll say f of x is equal to x squared times x cubed plus 4. Okay, so we'll take the derivative of the first function. So this will be 2x times the second one unchanged. So this will be times x cubed plus 4 plus the first one unchanged, x squared, times the derivative of the second. So the derivative of this would just be 3x squared. And this is the answer to this problem. So for our third problem, we're going to have f of x is equal to 4 sine of x tangent x. So 4 sine of x tangent x. And this is going to be our first problem, f of x, and this is going to be our second function, g of x. So if we look up here, f prime of x, this is going to be the derivative of 4 sine of x, which is 4 cosine of x, times the second, which is tangent x, plus the first, so 4 sine of x, times the derivative of the second. And the derivative of tangent x is secant squared x. And that is the answer to this problem. So for our fourth problem, consider f of x is equal to sine x times cosine x times x squared plus 1. And at first glance, you're going to see that we have actually 3 functions, and then you look up here and you're like, well, this only takes into account of 2. Well, what you can do is you can group 2 of these functions together as one. So you could say this right here is your f of x, and this one right here is your g of x. So when you consider this one to be your f of x, and then you have to take the derivative of it, you're going to actually have to do the product rule inside the product rule. So if we take the derivative of sine x cosine x, we're going to have to do this product rule, and then we're going to have to do it for the rest of the function. So let's take the derivative of sine x cosine x as our f of x. So the derivative of this will be our first with inside our f of x, and this will be our second function with inside f of x. So the derivative of the first of sine x is cosine x. And then we keep the second function the same, which is cosine x, plus the first function, so sine x, times the derivative of the second, which is cosine x. So the derivative of cosine x is negative sine x. So we're just going to say times negative sine of x. So we just did this one. We took the derivative of f of x. Now times g of x. Unchanged. So x squared plus 1. Plus the first one, the first function, unchanged, so sine x, cosine x. Sine x, cosine x, times the derivative of g of x, or the second function. So the derivative of x squared plus 1 is just 2x, so times 2x. And this is the derivative of sine x, cosine x, x squared plus 1. So we can write f prime of x is equal to that. And this is the answer.